Well, that's conflicting stories we're hearing, so let's go to our boxing commentator, Mike Costello, who was in Manchester last night for 5 Live Sport. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Colin.
What do you make of all of this? Simple question.
Well, I think that Paul McCloskey wasn't unlucky to lose, but he was unlucky to lose in that manner. The kind of cut that he had above his left eye is not unusual, in particular at the highest level of the sport, and I think the corner should have been allowed at least one chance, that 1 minute between the 6th and 7th rounds, to have a go at stemming the flow of blood. But having said that, McCloskey's face, the central part of his face, was reddened from halfway through the first round. Khan was getting through, and getting through repeatedly, as elusive as McCloskey was, and I think that Khan would have got to that cut again in the later rounds and may well have forced a stoppage anyway. And we should remember as well, Colin, that although, yes, the referee stopped this fight, ultimately it was decided by the judges' scorecards, and all 3 of them gave all 6 rounds to Amir Khan. So when Paul McCloskey and Barry Hearn was very emotional on 5 Live last night, we're talking about how the fight was going to turn around in the second half. Well, look, if McCloskey had won all 6 of the completed rounds, then all he could have got was a draw, and there was no sense to a lot of us at ringside that the fight was about to change any time soon. We know lots of contests down the years have changed in the second half of the fight. That didn't seem like one that would have done.
Do you think Barry Hearn will look in the cold light of day and see that today, or do you think this is going to rumble on as he'll push for a rematch?
They will push for a rematch because, as his promoters, they'll feel that's part of their duty. But I really do think that Barry Hearn will sit back and think that, what he was saying about McCloskey getting involved also in a great fight last night. It was developing into a great fight. It wasn't. It was pretty messy, and it suited McCloskey to make it that way, to make himself as difficult as possible to pin down and to nail. And he asked a lot of questions of Amir Khan last night, made it very difficult for Amir Khan. But in what he was doing in getting out of the way and making Khan miss, that was one part of his game plan which did work and was fairly impressive. But a lot of the time, in moving away, in weaving and bobbing and generally making Khan miss, he himself was leaving himself out of range and out of position, and therefore couldn't counter. So in a sense, only half of his game plan was working, and that was why he was so far behind on the scorecard, and that's also why any calls for a rematch will just fall on deaf ears.
It's a shame, Mike, that our spotlight in terms of two British-Irish fighters, has been on this fight, and that people are talking about this when the domestic scene has been so strong over the last 2-3 months. There's been so many good Friday, Saturday night, maybe not world-class fights, but it's getting very competitive in so many divisions, yet here we are talking, on national radio about this little bit of controversy.
Yes, the sport is thriving, and there have been some terrific contests in small hall shows through this year so far, already candidates for fights of the year, and we're barely 4 months through. But twice now in the last 6-7 months at the MEN Arena, and coincidentally with the same referee involved, we had David Hay against Audley Harrison, which was very disappointing for completely different reasons, and now this unsatisfactory ending last night. But ultimately there was nothing that Khan could have done about it, and there will be a knock-on effect. There will be some damage to Khan's reputation, but he will move on, and they'll push for this unification fight against Timothy Bradley now probably at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in July. They're talking about July the 23rd. And also beyond that, Colin, there was an interesting development overnight in the States, and there was a shock result in a fight for the WBC welterweight title. The champion, a Haitian-American, Andre Berto, was beaten by Victor Ortiz. Now, Ortiz and Khan have a history. They boxed as amateurs, and Khan beat him there. So you could see that as being Khan's fight later in the year. And I can sense that a future will be mapped out for Khan, which doesn't involve Paul McCloskey.
Yeah, I'll be heading over stateside again, no doubt. Thank you very much, Mike Costello, our boxing commentator, and Amir Khan's win over Paul McCloskey last night.